Now that the government has released the JFK papers, maybe next they will let us know why umpires insisted on calling it a home run for Shohei Ohtani. What's going on here? Let's talk about it on Locked On.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Maybe today your first listen and your last listen. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. So please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. If this is your first time with us, my name is Jeff Snyder. That guy next to me is my co-host, Vince Samperio. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like most of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room. So we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. And the Dodgers did some winning this week. Won the first two games of the regular season. Vince, we will now have to wait another week or so before they can get their next win. But there's still plenty to talk about. We did do a show. We did live shows after both of these games in Tokyo. So it's been about 15 hours now since our last show. But here we are again, back on our night before weekday schedule. And there were some things we didn't get into, including a couple little controversies during game 2 of the Tokyo series that we thought we'd dig into a little bit. The most pressing one, at least in the eyes of the world, is Shohei Ohtani's home run. Off the bat, as we mentioned, it looked and sounded like it was going to be long gone. Joe Davis thought it was long gone. Ended up being either barely gone or almost gone. And the world is hungry for conspiracy theories related to the Dodgers and specifically Shohei Ohtani. And so I guess that's good news that the world gets another conspiracy theory, because a lot of people seem really intent that MLB was heavily invested in the Dodgers winning this game 6-3 instead of 5-3.
Yeah, a lot of people wearing a slightly different shade of blue definitely had that on mind. We mentioned it this morning on the episode, but it didn't ultimately matter, and it still ultimately doesn't matter. We've just seen a lot more, quote unquote controversy on social media with it from a lot of Cubs fans. Like you said, if the Cubs would have scored 5 runs, I guess we could have granted it that, okay, maybe that was something, but yeah, it was weird because for whatever reason there was a few of the hits that didn't register on StatCast or didn't pick up on StatCast. I know Tommy Edmonds' home run didn't, Shohei's hit didn't, so you don't know exactly all the numbers on it. I saw a couple angles that people were trying to say that maybe it did hit the roof. It did have a weird trajectory, but again, since we don't know exactly what that trajectory was off the bat, it's kind of hard to say, okay, did it just hit its apex and fall down, or did it actually hit something on the roof and fall down? It did seem to fall a little bit differently, but either way, they weren't going to take that home run from Ohtani unless it was egregious. And maybe the angles that they even show, that I haven't seen any angle that's definitively it wasn't a home run. It's one of those where okay, maybe it might have hit the top of the wall or hit the wall, but you can't say for sure, and they called it a home run. So
yeah, that call was going to stand regardless of whatever the umpires called on the field. It was going to stand. There's no way you could tell for sure that it was a homer. No way you could tell for sure that it wasn't a homer. And I saw one person saying, "Well, if that's a homer, then this should have been too," and posted a picture of Gleyber Torres's double in the World Series, which was clearly, that fan clearly reached over. It was definitely a better camera view. I don't know if just camera positioning or if Dodger Stadium has better camera angles, different lighting.
The lighting in the dome is weird.
Yeah, the lighting is weird. We had a much better view, and nobody argued the Gleyber Torres one because everybody in the world agreed, yeah, that would have hit the wall if that fan hadn't reached over. It's very, very simple. This one, the only way to think there's some big conspiracy here is if you are inclined to believe that everything is a conspiracy when it comes to the Dodgers and Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, people, Yankee fans like to get in on stuff. I've noticed that. I think the change to Twitter recently, at least on mobile, where you have like the For You. I do see a lot more tweets that I didn't see before from people I don't follow. And a lot of those have been Yankees, just based on, kind of how the World Series was, and, Dodger Yankees. So that hits my timeline more. That Yankee fans are pretty out there in general. And then now I'm getting some Cubs ones. You always get, Padre ones, although I didn't see too many Padre fans talking too much from all this. But yeah, it ultimately, like you said, if they would have called it a double, it would have probably stayed a double. But they called it a home run, and it ultimately stayed a home run. Maybe next, if they have no more games at the Tokyo Dome, maybe they'll have different cameras or more cameras or whatever they need. But right now, yeah, it didn't matter in the game, other than now Ohtani has one homer on the season.
Yeah, which means that Shohei Ohtani still is on pace to end every day of this season at least tied for the league lead in home runs. So that's my goal for him. One other semi-controversy that didn't feel controversial to me at the time, it seemed pretty clear to me, was there was a foul ball down at their baseline that Max Muncy almost made the catch in real time. It looked like he made the catch because he reached his glove out and the ball disappeared. Turns out that he missed it, and Rodney Peete, sitting in the second row, caught it. And there are some people who are comparing Rodney Peete to Steve Bartman. First, my favorite part was that Fox News or Fox Sports posted it and just referred to Rodney Peete as this fan.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, you guys really should have paid Joe Davis to do this, because Joe Davis knew who it was. Your lead broadcaster, but apparently Fox Sports thought it was some random fan who happened to be a professional athlete, whose son is a clubhouse guy for the Dodgers. A lot of ties to the Dodgers. But yeah, you can see very clearly Rodney Peete played that perfectly, which isn't surprising. He was a very good baseball player at USC in addition to being a football player. And he put his glove where he would make the catch if Muncy didn't. And Muncy didn't make the catch, and Rodney did. And, for me, Muncy's look of annoyance seemed to me to be annoyance at himself, that he did. He allowed himself to get his glove tangled in the net. Like he should have gone in with his glove higher so that it was clear, because he should have caught that ball. And I think that's his thought, was I should have caught that ball.
Yeah, glove got stuck, and it shot up, like kind of the net hit it, and it kind of like shot up, but it was a little bit too late. And yeah, like I said, Rodney Peete was right there to catch it. It was, watching the Sports in LA broadcast, obviously right away, we knew it was Rodney Peete because Joe had called it out, and then when they went back and showed it, you could see Rodney and his wife right there. But I would say, I don't know if the Fox broadcast team didn't know it, at least the social media team. A lot of social media at that time, like the social media guy that was up at 3 a.m. probably for Fox
May not be
Sports.
the biggest sports expert.
That, or he's probably like 22 years old and has probably never heard of Rodney Peete. So
yeah,
I'll give him benefit of the doubt on that one.
Yeah, and the other point is, even if Rodney Peete had pushed Muncy's glove out of the way, the ball was in the stands. It's his ball. It would have been a faux pas as a fan wearing a Dodgers jersey, but it wouldn't have been against the rules. And in this case, he played it perfectly. It was exactly like, take notes. If you're ever sitting in the front row or two, that's how you should play that. If it's your team, you put your glove there where you'll make the play if your team doesn't. If it's the other team, you turn your back, you box them out. And maybe this only works if you're my size. I can box out any professional athlete. But you box them out, but you make sure that you're not leaning over into the field of play. Make it as hard as for them to come into the stands as possible. Rodney Peete would probably be pretty good at boxing out too. He's a big, strong guy.
Yeah, and for the crowd of people that say adults shouldn't bring gloves to the game, Rodney Peete's bringing a glove. I think anyone else can bring a glove too. So
you should always bring a glove, especially if you are, if you're there with your kids, for sure. Like, I always bring a glove when I'm there with my kids, but also it's fun to catch a baseball, and it's easier to catch a baseball if you have a glove. And the alternative to catching the baseball is getting hit by a baseball. So yeah, bring your glove to the game, and don't let old people or whoever it is. I don't even know who would complain about an adult bringing a glove to a game. You catch a ball. If you're not with your kids, find a kid to give the ball to. That's fine. It's still better than you getting smoked in the chest by a baseball.
I don't know how people catch baseballs bare hand. I've been around foul balls, and you can hear it sizzling sometimes. So,
have I ever told you about the time Jack Wilson made fun of me for not catching a ball?
No, I don't think so.
Hey, I'll tell you about that when we come back. And then we will talk about James Outman getting optioned. And this could be the beginning of the end for James Outman. We'll dig into it. So thank you for making us your first listen, and please keep it locked on Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Look, you don't always need to hire somebody full-time. Sometimes you just need help for a day or week, even 6 months. If you need help with a marketing campaign, Upwork can help connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results. Posting a job is free and simple, and within a day, multiple qualified candidates will be available for you to choose from. So instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps you find affordable, top-tier freelancers to scale your business very efficiently. So visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. As you guys know, I am a BYU alum. I am choosing BYU. They're going all the way, baby. You know what? If they don't, that's all right. I still got baseball season. But you know what? Whoever you think is going, you got an underdog you like, look, make a $5 bet on a sure thing, pick a 1 seed over a 16, and then use your $200 in bonus bets to go with those underdogs that you're liking. The FanDuel app is simple to use. When you win, you get paid instantly, no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. We are back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Thanks for being an everydayer. If you're not an everydayer, it's easy to become one. Just watch or listen every weekday morning. Thanks to those of you who are with us live here on Wednesday evening, especially those of you who were with us live this morning too. It's been a long day for all of us. I know Vince and I are looking forward to going to bed after this episode, and you probably are too. And thanks to those of you like Seth who went to bed right after the game, so had to listen to the live episode later, but are here with us live tonight. You know, appreciate you. Seth's a Locked On Dodgers Insider. You could be a Locked On Dodgers Insider too by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Also, for your second listen, be sure to check out Locked On MLB, hosted by our buddy Paul Francis Sullivan, a.k.a. Sully. And be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles over on YouTube. So before we get into James Outman, I'll tell you really quick my story about Jack Wilson. When he was a coach for the Braves back in 2012, I went to a game at Turner Field, Braves against the Pirates, and I was there with my best friend, and we walked in through the center field fence, hour and a half probably before game time, and batting practice was going on. And right as we walked in, like to center field, a ball came straight to me. I had my glove, but I didn't have my glove on. It was just under my arm or whatever. And I also had my big camera over my shoulder. Back then, iPhone cameras weren't as good as they are now. So I actually took a big Canon DSLR camera to my games, which was great for pictures. But so it's slung over my shoulder. And then I see this ball coming towards me. So I go to catch it. And right before it gets to me, the camera bag slid off my shoulder and down to the crook of my elbow and just jerked my arm a little bit to the point where instead of catching the ball, it deflected off my hand, hit me in the chest, and bounced back on the field. And Jack Wilson, who was coaching for the Braves, looked up at me and just shook his head and said, "That play's got to be made, man." And I couldn't disagree with him. The play absolutely had to be made. But it wasn't. Much like James Outman in game 1 of the 2023 NLDS.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Man, why would I bring that game up? But James Outman was optioned by the Dodgers after the Tokyo series, along with Landon Knack. And was there one more?
Sauer.
Oh, that's right, Matt Sauer. We'll probably dig into Knack maybe tomorrow because there's a lot to talk about there too. But James Outman being optioned isn't overly surprising. You and I talked the other day about Hunter Fiducia and James Outman and how they both might be the odd man out, and Fiducia was immediately, and now Outman is heading back to the minors. And I'm torn, Vince, on what this might mean, because obviously he's probably he's probably a better bench option than maybe one other person who's still on the roster, who I'm not going to name by name, but his name rhymes with PT3. But James Outman still has potential to eventually be a big league center fielder. And, but for me, I feel like this is a trade value move. Send him back to AAA where we know he can hit, let him play a good center field, hit the ball well with Oklahoma City, and work on the trade value.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Outman obviously a lot over the last month or so, and the thing is, like, he's not a prospect. He's he wasn't ever like that highly rated of a prospect in general. He had a really good rookie season that was highlighted by a really hot start and a pretty decent finish and a pretty bad in the middle. And he's 28 years old. He's not necessarily a prospect. He probably would be able to be on maybe half of the major league teams at the very least as a fourth outfielder. But with the Dodgers, he's not quite there. And yeah, for me, it's what is the play for James Outman? Like, do the Dodgers hold him in this kind of purgatory where he's an injury away from maybe some playing time, but not really that close? And with Ha-Seong Kim, like, being above, like, he's not even, he might be the next call up in the first month if they don't think Ha-Seong Kim's ready and somebody gets hurt. But once Ha-Seong Kim moves up in the thing, in the the depth, that he's not the next guy. He's the second guy. And do you really want that? And also for me, I think this kind of sets up Pages to have that leash to play center field for the most part, to be in the lineup for a lot of days, and to get that what James Outman got 2 years ago. Now that's Andy Pages. So yeah, for Outman, again, the Dodgers can keep him around and he'd be good depth for the team, but it's kind of sucks for him. And sometimes the Dodgers relieve those guys of being in that kind of weird spot.
Yeah, there are plenty of teams that James Outman could be a starter for right now, teams that could afford to give him that runway to see, hey, you know what, we're going to give you 400 at bats to see if you can remember how to hit big league pitching. The Dodgers aren't really in that position. And Andy Pages has looked fine in center field. He's not going to have the range of a Kevin Kiermaier or even a James Outman. And even the balls he does get to, he's not always going to look super graceful doing it. But he's doing okay. He has a very good arm. And at the plate, he looks at least confident. And there's always a chance that he's actually going to do something. He looks solid right now. And so it makes sense to give him that job. And it makes sense not to have James Outman be the last guy on the bench. Let that job be Chris Taylor's and James Outman. I see a comment saying that Outman's trade value can't be very high. And no, it's not. But it's more than zero. And if he has a hot first month in Oklahoma City, it will be slightly more than that even. And, they're never going, he's not going to, at this point, he's not going to headline a blockbuster trade. But you know what? Minor trades help too, especially when the Dodgers being really good at minor trades.
Yeah. And again, the Dodgers are always going to try to get value out of trades, whether it's a lottery pick, 19-year-old draft pick or signing or whatever the case. I know we saw Michael Busch. They did pretty well in that trade so far. But also, the Dodgers are known to be a top-tier organization and for a different reason. Like the Michael Busch trade last year, they didn't have to trade Michael Busch. They could have kept him because, yeah, look what happened with Freddie. Like, he didn't miss a lot of time, but he did miss some time. Michael Busch probably could have slotted in right there. But ultimately, it made more sense for all parties to kind of move forward, and that's kind of where Outman's at. He's not the knocking on the door to the majors like kind of Busch was. He's more of a, I've had success in the majors very recently, but then I didn't, and now the Dodgers are in a different mode than they were 2 years ago when I was starting. And it might be, hey, James Outman, we're going to do you a solid, and hey, maybe we'll get some draft pick or some prospect lower level that'll be a top 100 prospect in 2 years. You never know.
Yeah, and then the one other thing is he is going through a swing change, and so maybe it's just the thing where they can't really afford to let him work on that at the big league level. Now that the games count, it's time for him to work on that either at Camelback Ranch or in AAA or both, and go from there. And maybe they do still have hopes for him. Maybe they do think he's this close to unlocking that new swing. We don't know. It doesn't seem likely, but it definitely seems like the right move right now for him to be in AAA instead of in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
One other outfielder who we maybe learned a little bit about the Dodgers strategy for is Michael Conforto, who actually wasn't in the original starting lineup for Game 1 in Tokyo against Shota Imanaga. And we're wondering what that might mean for the Dodgers' plans with him against left-handed pitchers. We'll dig into that when we come back. So thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
We are back. Thanks again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen. Thanks for being every day. Thanks for being here with us live. Good group going on, a lively chat. See Richie talking about going to opening day. Vince and I will both be at the home opener next Thursday also. Hope to see a bunch of you there. When I find out where I'm sitting, I'll let you guys know on the show. Always fun to see people at the stadium. And Vince, sits in the press box, but just wanders the stadium. So he's a nomad. Hard to track him down. But remember, become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Dodgers. Be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles on YouTube. And we're back in postcast season. So after most Dodger games, Pete Fox will be doing the postcast, and we'll probably overlap with that a little bit. But he's shortening those only to about 15 minutes each episode. So, we'll get going right around the time the postcast ends, so you can just extend your Locked On Dodgers excitement.
And it's on our channel now, on video and audio. So
yeah, so it's fine at the same place you're finding this show. So Michael Conforto, Vince, last year he was better against left-handed pitching than he was against right-handed pitching. Had reverse splits. That's not the case for his career, but it did kind of give hope that, hey, this is a guy who won't need to be platooned. And the Dodgers kind of talked about him as a guy who won't be platooned. But then when we got the lineup on, what was that, Tuesday morning, Michael Conforto wasn't in the original lineup. Kike Hernandez was in left field. And then when Freddie Freeman was scratched, they moved Kike to first base and put Conforto back in the lineup. And Conforto played both games and got a couple hits and looked just fine, played good defense, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm torn. I'll tell you, Vince. Part of me thinks maybe this is a hint that Conforto will sit against lefties sometimes. But I think the bigger part of me thinks, yes, when Conforto gets a day off, it will be against the left-handed pitcher. But I think their plan is still for him to play most of the time against left-handed pitching. And this was more about Kike Hernandez and maybe specifically about Shota Imanaga and the type of pitcher he is, just some combination of Kike crushing lefties, trying to get him in the lineup, and Imanaga being really tough.
Yeah, Roberts said kind of as much. He said the original lineup was more about getting Kike's bat in there with Mookie Betts out, more so than maybe sitting Conforto. And yeah, Imanaga's, if you're, for Conforto, yes, you hit lefties well last year, but that's not necessarily the case over your career. And if the Dodgers are going to put you in situations where you want to succeed, it'll probably be, against a left-handed pitcher that's not as good as Shota Imanaga, at least showed last year. Even Justin Steele was pretty solid last year. Conforto might have been on the bench again if Freddie was healthy. But, if it was some, no-name lefty that starts a random game for some team, then Conforto might be in there. Or more normally, Conforto might be in there. And if Conforto hits, he's going to be in there obviously a lot more. So I think it's just a matter of the Dodgers put guys in situations where they're going to succeed for the most part. And this might have been one of those where, Imanaga's, even though he didn't pitch as well, he can be pretty good.
And maybe this is going to be put to the test on Thursday next week when the Dodgers face Tarik Skubal, who is one of the, 2 or 3 toughest lefties in baseball. The only guys I can even think of who I'd put in the same boat as him are Chris Sale and Blake Snell. And Dodgers won't be facing Blake Snell this year, thank goodness. But Tarik Skubal is really good. And I think at this point, I would be surprised to see Conforto in the starting lineup against Skubal because Kike if you're going to have a chance to hit Scooble, I think Kike probably has a better chance than Conforto. But you're looking for a 2-1 win on that day anyway.
Yeah, you're hoping to get a few runs or hoping Scooble is on a not 100 pitch count, maybe a 85, 90 pitch count. He's legit. He's really good, and he's a guy that is a cool matchup to have like on opening day, but also a tough matchup for sure. And with Conforto, the good thing is when the lefty does come out of a game, he can always go in there and play the last few innings. The Dodgers have enough guys to make that change if they want to. And I think I feel like it'll be kind of a play it by ear type time with Conforto against lefties. If they're in a stretch where they face like 5 lefties in a row, I don't think he's going to sit 5 games in a row, but I think they'll pick and choose which games he sits and who he matches up better against, whether it's velocity, whether it's off speed, whether it's whatever it is. The Dodgers have much more analytics than we do.
Yeah, and especially now that he did play both of the games against the Cubs, against lefties. Now they, I think he probably would have started against Justin Steele either way, because I do think he was going to sit against Tarek Skubal either way.
Yeah.
And so I don't think they wanted to sit their free agent acquisition the first 3 games with the team. But now that he got to play both of those games, I think we're probably going to see Kike in left field there. And honestly, that's a pretty, having Mookie Betts back, really then your 3 lefties, I guess they could put Kike at third base, instead of Muncy. Muncy has traditionally hit lefties pretty well, not so much the last couple seasons. But he looked okay. He should have had a hit against Imanaga. That was in the exhibition game, the last exhibition game so they didn't have replay. How did they call that a foul ball?
Chalk came up on that.
Yeah. But Muncy, he had the double against Justin Steele.
Yeah.
He can hit lefties too. So Kike will be in the lineup one way or the other. Let's cross our fingers and hope that they don't go with both Kike and Chris Taylor in the lineup to max out their right-handed bats. But I guess stranger things have happened.
Yeah, and then on days when Conforto sits, you're leaving Pages in center, right? Like you're just making him that. Like you're not going to be moving him around, especially like he hasn't played left that. Either at all or not enough.
Not much. And if you're trying to make Andy Pages a center fielder, it's kind of like what they do with Mookie Betts last year. Remember early in the season when Rojas came in, they would shift Mookie over to second base, and then they stopped doing that. Said no, if Mookie's going to be our shortstop, he's going to be our shortstop, and they did that until he got injured. I think it's going to be that same mindset. If Andy Pages is our center fielder, we're not going to move him around, even though he might be better in other spots. He needs to play as much center field as possible, and so. Maybe we'll pull him late and put Chris Taylor in center for defensive purposes late in a game or something. But when Pages is in the game, I think he'll be in center.
Yeah, that's how I feel too.
So this was where we're in kind of we talked about this morning. We're kind of in a weird situation now, which we're used to. We had it last year too. I doubt we'll have it next year. I suspect the Dodgers won't start the season internationally again for several years now. Have you heard any reasoning behind both games being home games for the Cubs?
No, I know we got asked about it and I saw it on Twitter, but honestly, and unless the Dodgers said, okay, we'll go to Japan, but we want our 81 home games.
Yeah, that could be it. They're scheduling things because, it could have.
I guess last year, like with the Padres, it's easier because they played more games against them.
Yeah.
So where they, do you really want a 2-game series in one of the cities maybe?
Yeah, and so
or I guess they still might have that, but
I think they'll have a 2-game series in Chicago and a 3-game series in LA. I did think it was funny. I didn't even notice at the time that the Dodgers wore their home uniforms in Game 2. Like I didn't notice that till my brother brought it up. But that was kind of interesting that we haven't really gotten much beyond that. I used to pay attention to that all the time when I had season tickets because I remember in 2014 when the Dodgers opened in Australia against the D-backs, I know those were home games for the D-backs because I remember being glad that they weren't taking any home games away from me. And I think it was the same thing when the Dodgers played the Padres in Mexico a few years ago. I think those were home games for the Padres. They might have been split, but I know last year
3 games. I don't remember. I was there, but I don't remember who was home or away.
Yeah. I know last year they were split. The 2 games in Korea were 1-1, which is what I expected. And then until I found out that Dodgers were going to be the road team both times, and maybe it was just that they wanted Shohei to lead off both games. It's like, this is Japan. Shohei Ohtani should be the first batter of the game. It could be as simple as that. A lot of stuff goes into that. But yeah, so now we do have back to fake games, couple days off, and then the Freeway Series, which is always fun. I do think it loses some of its luster when it is sandwiched between games that matter. But also, it's always a fun time. A couple of years ago, we got to see Bobby Miller in the Freeway Series. Last year, Jared Karros got to pitch in the Freeway Series. So, I'm sure some of these guys, young guys, will get a chance. We'll probably see Zaire Hope playing with the Dodgers in those games. Maybe it'll be fun. And then it's kind of this was a practice run. And they say, okay, you're going to have to do it at 3 in the morning just to make it really hard. And then you'll appreciate when opening day rolls around. It's like, oh, I can watch baseball in the regular daylight hours. So hopefully we'll be.
And a 4 p.m. opening day time. So
easing into that. Yeah.
And it's going to feel like they have 4 opening days because they had all the ceremonies the last 2 days. And they're going to have opening day ceremonies. And then they're going to have the ring ceremony. And then maybe, I don't know who they play first on the road. I don't if it's their hope. They could have a bunch of opening days.
Yeah. They have 6 or 7 home games because they play the Braves after the Tigers, so they might not be the home opener for whoever they're playing. But yeah,
they go to Washington, and Washington starts at home. So
okay, yeah, a lot of pomp and circumstance coming up, and that's always fun. But it's baseball season, even though it's not quite baseball season. This, Vince, was our 1,585th episode of Locked On Dodgers. Now we are in our 7th season. Next week, 6 days from now, it'll be the anniversary of our first episode. And entering our 7th season of doing this show. Never missed a day. Don't plan on starting anytime soon. You got anything else for today, Vince?
Got nothing else. It's time to hit the hay.
Yes, it is. So thank you all for being here with us. We really appreciate it. Really good group here tonight. Like I said, awesome live chat, awesome live crowd. And if you're watching or listening later, we like you just as much as these guys. Don't let them bully you. You're all important to us. All our everydayers are important. If you're not an everydayer, you want to be important to us, start watching and listen every day. Then you'll be super important to us. You can also go beyond the podcast and become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Obviously, subscribe wherever you're watching and listening right now to make it easier to find us. Also, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles, 2 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network. If you check out Locked On Sports Today on Thursday morning, you may see this pretty face. Just spoiler alert. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSense91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog, and both of our DMs are open over there. You can also email us, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or a text message at 323-863-LOCK-5625. We are here every weekday morning. We hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you later.
Have a good one.